Rachel Shoaf, 17 years old, has been sentenced 30 years for the murder of Skylar Neese. Neese was last seen alive in July of 2012. You know, things were very quiet around 2:30 when the students got out. And when I started talking to them, they all brought up that these incidents are happening all across the country right now, and you hear about it all the time. And none of them ever thought it could happen right here at MHS. There were very few dry eyes, especially when Marsha Ashdown, the prosecutor, described what just happened that night when she says Neese thought she was going out with two of her friends on a nice drive to just smoke some pot. But instead, Sheila Eddy and co-conspirator Rachel Shoaf had other plans and wound up stabbing her to death. Now, bumps and turns and other skiers can present problems for people who can see. And if you can't, it requires guides to get you down the mountain.
Here, return right. Keep going a little further.
Hey, thank you very much, Gretchen. Sheila Eddy faces first-degree murder, conspiracy, and kidnapping charges in relation to Skylar Neese's death. With all this snow, we currently have a flooding warning on Deckers Creek, and a lot of it's caused not just by the snow, but by ice. Over the past few weeks, it's been brutally cold, building up tons of ice on creeks, streams, rivers. On Tom Mashenko's refrigerator, between his grandkids and kids, sits a photo of Tommy Cork.
He's my everything. You know, he's the individual that saved my life.
A volunteer fighter, Cork loved to help other people, loved his family, and loved his Mustang.
He was on his way home from work, and he had called. His dad and I were in Morgantown. We were on our way home. We knew there had been an accident. His dad got out of the truck and he said, "It's a Mustang." And I said, "Is it, Tommy?" And I ran.
Tommy Cork died June 12th, 2009. That fateful night changed many people's lives.
They said, "You need a heart transplant." I didn't want one because I was afraid. The surgeon told my wife he was going to have to take whatever heart comes available because I would not make it through the night.
Cork's heart, now 24 years old, lives inside 72-year-old Tom Mashenko. He calls his transplant a second chance at life. That second chance Mashenko devotes to helping other transplant patients.
I just talk to them one-on-one, and eventually I'll say, "Oh, I know what you're feeling because I had a transplant too." Don't give up. You know, you may have ups and downs, but it'll all be eventually going up.
My Tommy would be honored to know Tom for what he does to help others, because Tommy just is all about helping other people.
Tommy was the youngest of Debbie Cork's children. He was her little boy, her Clay Battelle graduate, her firefighter and railroad worker. And still today, she couldn't be prouder.
I miss him terribly, but he's still out there helping people. He told me he saved 7 lives, and now 2 people can see with his beautiful blue eyes.
In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for 12 News, I'm Andrew Clay. After pleading to first-degree murder, Sheila Eddy now faces life in prison with possible parole after 15 years. Today's plea hearing was very emotional, especially for the Neese family.
Since that date, my wife's life has drastically altered. We are no longer a family. The person sitting before you, Skylar's so-called friend, took her away from us without any remorse or feelings. You can look into the eyes of those who are responsible, but you can never hear what they heard as they were taking her life.
What turned this teen on her best friend still remains much of a mystery. Prosecutor Marsha Ashdown says Eddy and her co-conspirator Rachel Shoaf began distancing themselves from Neese and planned to kill her to ensure their secrets were kept.
Instead of just saying, well, let's not call Skylar anymore, or let's not have Skylar on a sleepover anymore, let's kill her. And they did.
Ashdown said what those secrets are still remain much of a mystery. Neese was last seen in July of 2012. Ashdown says that night Skylar thought she was going joyriding with her friends where they planned to smoke pot. Instead, her friends repeatedly stabbed her until she died, and later told investigators they dropped her off near her home that night.
Because those girls were best friends with Skylar, police had little reason to disbelieve them. Even Dave and Mary would certainly not have believed that the best friends could have killed their daughter. that was an obstacle in the beginning.
The tides shifted on the case when Shoaf's story changed. She eventually led investigators to Neese's remains last January and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. She named Eddie as a co-conspirator. 18 months after Skylar disappeared, her killers are now convicted, but the Neese family says it's far from closure.
There's no closure at all, I don't think. I mean, who knows how my mind works right now. I don't think it'll ever be closed. My little girl was something you can't close.
Shoaf has yet to be sentenced, and she could face up to 40 years in prison. Reporting in Morgantown for 12 News, I'm Andrew Clay.